Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us for Urban Gardening. It's that time of year. Spring has sprung. What better time than now to learn about planting specific herbs, as well as learning about two local organizations, Urban Harvest STL and United People Community Organization, that are doing groundbreaking things with gardening to better the lives of people in our community. And Joyce Coker will elaborate more on that in a bit. Everyone should have 3 terracotta pots, soil, markers, and 3 bags of seeds, basil, oregano, and parsley. And some of the seeds, I understand, are so teeny tiny, so you have to be careful. There are seeds in each bag, just so you know. Before we get to planting, if you have little ones or want to keep your hands busy while we're talking, feel free to start decorating your pots as we go along, and we'll plant later during the Q&A. I am the VP of Membership for NCJWSTL. We began offering our virtual events in the start of the pandemic as a way for us to bring together our members and non-members. We started a membership engagement committee to help with the planning and programming of NCJW membership events. And one of the committee members, Joyce Coker, took the reins of this urban gardening event. And thank you for all of your work, Joyce. And I'll just shout out Jessa and Brooke, who are NCJW staff members who are helping us with the Zoom and all the other behind the scenes things. I'm going to turn it over to Joyce to introduce our special guest for this event. If you have any questions for either Arielle Wright or Reverend Audrey Hollis as they describe their organizations, you can put them in the chat and we will address them later. So I'm going to turn it over to Joyce. Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. Well, you did the shout out to our fabulous NCJW staff, so I just will say ditto to all of that. So now it is my pleasure to introduce Reverend Audrey Hollis, founder of United People, who's going to tell us a little bit about herself and then provide context about the urban garden and urban garden community movement and the mission of United People. Reverend Hollis, welcome.
Thank you so much. And let me say thank you for the invitation as well. As she said, I am the Reverend Audrey Hollis. I've been doing work around food for quite a while. I started United People is really an initiative of Beacon of Light Ministries. And under that umbrella is where United People falls. And back in, well, we got a 501c3, started in 2015, but in 2014, I was taking a grandchild to school and I happened to see a mother and a young child on a school bus stop waiting, and the baby, to me, she was a baby, she's 5, maybe 6, was eating hot chips. 2004. Oh, I'm sorry, 2004. My husband just corrected me. I guess so, because I would have been taking one of our grandchildren to preschool. So, and I had another incident. I don't know if it was the same year, but it was a little later. I was taking grandchildren to a Saturday program, and it was my turn to bring the snacks in it. And I somehow, managing about 5 or 6 grandkids, I left the snacks at home. So when we got there, they said, just go around the corner, there's a store. But when I did go around the corner, the store did not even have peanut butter. It didn't have crackers. It didn't have anything that I would have considered a snack for children. So I had to drive over 2 miles, like out to the county, find the Snooks to purchase apples and peanut butter and some other fruits. And so with that gnawed at me for quite a while, because as a child, I learned to garden with a great auntie and a great grandfather. And I didn't understand it. And the culture of my family was to eat vegetables and fruits. But I started paying attention that there were no grocery stores. That woman at the bus stop was very loving, hugging her child, talking to her child, but there was no grocery store around. And if you don't have a car, how are you going to go? And some places in the county, it takes forever to get a bus. So I thought, well, let's start a garden and we will invite people to come and they can grow in this garden and their family will have great nutritional foods. So fast forward, we also, we started that garden and we started more than one garden really. And then out of that, I thought about, well, let's partner with some friends that we know in Mid-America to do a farm camp because children will get on-hands experience, not just the parents, but the children. And the pictures you're looking at now are children, urban youth that had the opportunity to visit urban farms and farms in mid-Missouri just to see animals they've never seen before, pet them, talk and learn about food while they were there. We would harvest whatever season it was. If it was planting, they would get to plant something also in a pot to bring home. Or if it was harvesting, they would get to harvest fruits and vegetables from a sustainable farm, not a factory farm, but a small farmer that was growing food. And those are some of the children that were at farm camps that you see with us. And in the lower corner, that's a friend of ours. We also help on his farm, but also get vegetables at New Roots Urban Farm, and intern and myself. We had just been working a couple of weeks ago at their farm. So it is my passion to make sure that communities of colors, African-American women, pregnant and postpartum, and families have access to food. I don't understand why it's so hard. They pay the same price for food as rich people, and it is our custom as African-Americans to eat lots of vegetables and basically to have a garden, a home garden. So, but that culture has slowly left us. Maybe over the last I think grocery stores start closing over 20 years ago in African-American communities. And then, so if you don't have a car, you're stuck eating chips, soda, and the things that ruin your health. So we do lots of projects. We grow food, we teach people to grow, and we teach them how to cook. We take children and families when absent COVID, we can't take them now to a rural area, but we will take them to urban farms and just space them out during the summer. So that's where I am right now. And our program and our organization is still working on food. And we are going to do something, work at health events this coming year to make sure pregnant and postpartum women have access to foods, to fresh, healthy foods, because of the mortality rate of youth, African-American babies, it's way out of balance when it comes to others. So I think I'll wrap up, and that's enough for now. And if you have questions, please feel free, and I'll try and get the answers to you in the chat later.
Thank you so much, Reverend Hollis. That was amazing and very inspiring, and I'm sure we have a lot of questions, and we hope that we can help in some way in the future. Now going on, it's now my pleasure to introduce Arielle Wright. She is the Education and Community Engagement Coordinator at Urban Harvest STL. She too is going to tell us a little bit about herself and provide some context about the urban garden and community gardening movement that is going on with her and the mission of Urban Harvest STL. Arielle, again, welcome. Thank you for joining us tonight.
Well, thank you so much for inviting me. It's an honor to speak here and to speak alongside Reverend Hollis and the amazing grassroots work that's going on at United People Market and really all over St. Louis. But I am here on behalf of Urban Harvest STL. We are a nonprofit urban farm in St. Louis City. And we are also motivated by this mission to improve food access and address food insecurity in our city and our region. Excuse me. So our mission is to create an inclusive and equitable food system that provides healthy food for all, regardless of race, socioeconomic status, or geography or zip code, right? Everyone has the right to choose healthy, affordable food for themselves and their family, much like Reverend Hollis was stressing. To put in context why this is an issue in St. Louis, I think Reverend Hollis spoke beautifully to the experiences of folks that are living with low food access and low choices in that regard. In terms of the bigger picture or the numbers, St. Louis City does have a slightly higher rate of food insecurity than the national average and even the average in Missouri. This data comes from 2018 from Feeding America. So these are also pre-COVID numbers, but the US has an average rate of about 11% of households dealing with regular food insecurity and not having regular access to healthy, affordable food. In Missouri, that was 13%, and in St. Louis City, it was 18.2%. And this was 3 years ago. Unfortunately, COVID has had kind of an exacerbating effect on this, so it's now projected to be upwards of 23% in St. Louis City. So it is very much an issue that we have to kind of address through a network of nonprofits and grassroots efforts to improve food access. So as I mentioned, we're an urban farm, but we're actually a series of farms. We're a network of farms. We have 8 farm sites throughout the city, some of which are on the rooftop buildings. So we're known for the Food Roof Farm downtown, but we do have a few other installations. We also are growing at ground level at a few sites as well. And the harvest from these farms goes toward our food access program. So we donate it to partner organizations that are supporting food justice and food access in St. Louis. And that includes the Urban League of St. Louis, Fit and Food Connection, the North Newstead Association, Flance Early Learning Center, and LifeWise STL. So those first 4 organizations are all located in St. Louis, the north part of St. Louis City and North County. And then LifeWise is in South, it's the new name of Kingdom House, and that's located in South City, close to our farm site in Fox Park. So we do try to donate our food close to where our farms are located, although I believe the Fit and Food Connection and Urban League do have food distribution programs in St. Louis County as well. So I want to pivot a little bit to some of the benefits, of urban farming and rooftop farming. We're here talking about urban gardening, and I think food access is a huge benefit of this, bringing healthy, nutritious food into people's homes and communities, having it right down the street or in your yard, having farms in the city in an urban setting, be that on a rooftop or at ground level, is great for community engagement. It's great as an educational platform, much like United People is doing with those summer camps for kids, or or tours or workshops. We have weekly garden lessons at Flance with the preschool classes there, and kids just respond so instinctively with such enthusiasm and curiosity. It's really wonderful. And of course, bringing farms into an urban setting is really great for creating neighborhood green space, which has been shown through research to improve well-being and satisfaction from people living in proximity to it. And I wanted, of course, to take a moment to talk about the benefits of gardening. Why grow food? Why grow plants at home? We're all here because there's some interest in doing some planting. And, we at Urban Harvest, although we are really focused on growing food on our farms to serve our food access program, we also do encourage through our educational initiatives or partnerships or internships, people to grow food in their own communities, be that at home or in a faith community or in a community garden. We really are trying to bring the message and share the knowledge to empower people to start growing their own food as well, because it's just so beneficial. Of course, for health and nutrition, having healthy food right outside your door that you can just pick fresh out of the earth, you can control what chemicals are on it, you can eliminate chemicals on it whatsoever. So it's great for health, and yes, children and pregnant or postpartum women as well. I think that's wonderful. That's a really good point. It's really good for mental health and longevity. Just the combination of exercise and fresh air and sensory stimulation is really good for both mental and physical well-being. And then I'll just plug, of course, that there are lots of ecological benefits to growing food and, having plants, having a garden at home. You're creating habitat for pollinators, you're caring for soil, all really important, valuable work. And again, it's just such a communal and social effort. So if you're doing it with family or your church or in a community garden, it really connects people, and food really brings people together. And I have really found that gardening is just a much more enriching experience when you have others to share it with and ask questions and share what's worked or what hasn't worked, much like we're going to kind of have our discussion as we're planting together today. And I'll just end on the note of how to keep up with what Urban Harvest is doing. We are accepting volunteers. We take small volunteer groups so that everyone can be socially distanced and masked to protect themselves. We have a calendar on our website, so you can actually click straight through and find a date that works for you and then sign up in advance. As I mentioned, we're trying to promote and help people grow their own food. So we have some free guides on our website to get you started on that. I would definitely suggest following our newsletter, signing up for our newsletter on our website as well. It's once a month, so it's not going to fill up your inbox, and it just is a great way to find out if we've got events or opportunities or if there are ways to get involved. And you can also follow us on Instagram and Facebook at Urban Harvest STL. That's another way that we get the word out when we have opportunities for our community to get involved. So I will leave it there and let you guys move to the video.
Hey, Arielle, can you let us know just a little bit about this video while Brooke is getting it queued up?
Yes.
What we can expect to see?
Sure. It's a 7-minute video, a tour of our food roof farm from last summer when everything was green and beautiful. That was put together by some very talented interns last summer on our behalf. Describes a little bit of the food roof and the work that we do.
Hi, this is farm intern Carrie with some food roof history before the tour. When Urban Harvest STL first started looking for spaces to farm in St. Louis, most property owners weren't interested in leasing land to a nonprofit that wouldn't be financially lucrative for them. Founders and architects Mary and Joe Ostapi were forced to pivot and grew inspired by rooftop farms in cities like Chicago and New York. After visiting and learning from them, construction on the food roof began in April 2015 and was completed by June.
Welcome to the food roof. My name's Megan, and I'm one of our farmers here at Urban Harvest STL, and this is one of our main farms. So these plots over here are community garden beds. When our founder started Urban Harvest, she really wanted to start community gardening, and this is kind of the inception of what the food roof came to be. So we have 10 plots over here that community gardeners in St. Louis are able to basically use. So these two farm rows over here are filled with a cover crop, and cover crops are basically a crop that you plant when you aren't growing vegetables. So it keeps the soil intact, it prevents erosion from wind and rain. It also keeps the soil fed, so all of those microbes and different soil organisms are able to eat while there's nothing that we're growing for ourselves. And this cover crop, buckwheat, is a really quick one. It is used in the summertime a lot, and pollinators love it too. This is one of my favorite plants to stand by at the farm. This is Anise hyssop, and it has these really pretty tall flowers. It's in the mint family, and you can tell because it has a square stem. but our pollinators love this thing, which is why I love standing next to it. I'm kind of a pollinator geek, so it's just always fascinating to just stand here and see how many different ones you can see and count. At Urban Harvest, we really like to experiment with different growing methods. This here is our vertical wall. It is basically a sock filled with soil. So we have some Swiss chard growing here, some mustards. Herbs really like this growing medium. And underneath the socks, there's a drip line here. So it's set to a timer and it drips and gets the socks wet and it kind of like water falls down. It's always fun when the timer goes off to see happen. And we wondered if beans would do well in here, and it looks like they're pretty happy. There's a lot of purple beans popping up, and yeah, they've been doing almost as well as the ones that are in the field, so that's good news.
So in this corner of the food roof, we have our hydroponic towers. What is hydroponics, you might be wondering? Hydroponics is soilless plant production. So instead of soil, in the bases of these towers, we have a nutrient-rich solution that's then pumped up through the towers and distributed by trickling down into each pocket, each plant. In these two, we have some basil plants that are doing really, really well. Benefits to hydroponics is that you don't have to worry about pests and diseases as much that are associated with the soil. They save quite a bit of space, they save water as well, and are often known to produce higher yields. So a great up-and-coming technology that we're excited to share with you all.
So some of our stuff we start from seed in the greenhouse, and that's pretty much to ensure a better germination rate, and some things respond better if you actually transplant them as a plant into the ground versus directly seeding. So something like carrots, you're definitely going to want to just plant it directly into the bed because they don't do well with the disturbance of their roots. But things like in the brassica family, they really need some extra care, and you want them to be at a larger size when you put them into the ground to ensure that they'll be harvestable and won't die. It's exciting to just see it go from seed all the way to harvest. It's kind of one of the most rewarding things about farming.
Urban Harvest STL and its network of urban farms exists because all St. Louisans should have equitable access to fresh, healthy food regardless of socioeconomic status, race, or zip code. Almost 1 in 5 residents in St. Louis City in 2018 did not have reliable access at all times to enough nutritious food for an active, healthy lifestyle. And this is due to a long history of systemic racism that favors white affluent neighborhoods and makes high-quality, unprocessed food geographically and economically inaccessible for low-income communities and communities of color. Fighting for a racially just food system that puts people before profit requires collaboration with incredible community partners who help us distribute our produce to families and individuals in North City and North County who experience the inequities in our food system to the greatest degree. These include Fit and Food Connection, the Urban League of St. Louis, and the North Newstead Association. We can't wait to resume operations and show you around in person, but for now, we hope you enjoyed the tour, learned a lot, and have a great day.
I'm not sure if I'm supposed to be on now or not, but I'm going to just jump in. Arielle, thank you so much. That was an amazing, magnificent video, so well put together and gave us so much information. And it hurts my heart to think that I probably throw away more food in a day than some people have to eat. It's really a bad situation, but this should open all of our eyes to something that we could be doing better. We would love to have both you and Reverend Hollis take some questions by our guests, our participants. So I think maybe there's some in the chat. And Lisa, if you don't mind taking over, you're better at it than I am. Thank you. Again, Arielle, thank you again so much for joining us tonight, and I hope we see you again.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, so we do have some questions. One is from Susan Katzman, and she's asking both Arielle and Reverend Audrey, what have been your biggest challenges and what is one surprise each of you has had? And whomever wants to speak first, that is fine. I think Reverend is muted though.
You can go first, Arielle.
Okay, sure.
Great video.
Thank you. Yeah, we have an internship program in the summers, and there was an intern last summer who was just gifted with audio-visual technology and put together that lovely video. So challenges and surprises. Well, let me think. So challenges, I would say as a nonprofit, the challenge is that we always have so many ideas and possible partnerships and goals that we'd really like to see, and it's always sort of contingent on the funding. So you never know for sure if you're going to get the grant, or when the grant period finishes, you may not be able to continue doing a program that is close to your heart. So I would say, as a nonprofit, things be a little more insecure or uncertain because you may have the best of intentions and ideas in the world and just not be able to connect with the funder who wants to put the resources out to do it. So that can really be a challenge. There were a lot of challenges during COVID because we are a very public facing organization as well. So having to pivot away from welcoming people onto the food roof and having large groups come through and do tours, we really have had to change what we do, and it does feel a lot more disconnected than we used to. Our farmers and all of our staff used to regularly have interactions with people in the community or people coming to visit us, and it's felt a little bit more distant since COVID. But hopefully that will be transitioning back to in person soon. Surprises. Let me think. I guess I would say the surprise, I'd been a gardener for a little while before I joined the Urban Harvest team, but my main surprise, or the main thing that I've discovered since joining, is just how important it is to care for the soil. So I guess I'll put a little plug in about how we think about caring for cultivating plants, but you're actually also caring for and cultivating soil. So I'll just say I've learned to come to appreciate the world in the dirt that's going on that we can't see, but is extremely vibrant and important. So that was a bit new to me. I came to appreciate it after joining Urban Harvest.
Thank you. And Reverend Audrey?
Yes, I would say thank you, Arielle. You all are doing such amazing work. I would think challenges. I'll start with challenges. Of course, COVID-19 has been a huge for our farm camps and even our market, because you couldn't get so many people. You couldn't just let people come in, and people like to visit and come in, but just having a couple of people in a time, things like that. And just, we had to rethink, well, let's try and deliver, or let's get it ready and they can pick it up. So those were some challenges we had to navigate during, the last year or so. And money is always a challenge. Just like Arielle said, I mean, it is to raise money. I mean, you can write grants, but if you don't get them, you don't have the money. And we might have great inspirations and we have such great passion to do this work, but if it's not funded, a lot of times we have to scale back. Those things aren't done. And I would say one surprise was before COVID hit. It's a surprise that is blessing us today, is that the Evangelical Lutheran Church called and said, I want to fund you and what is the, thing you need the most. We really needed a van to transport children, but, and because, we would be borrowing vans and trying to get us on the insurance. And it was just something. And most times the vans would be really old and, no air conditioning, and trying to get kids to a 2-hour or 2.5-hour drive wasn't fun. But they funded us and purchased a van, gave us the funds to go out and get a used van that was relatively, and it's a 2015, in good shape. So that was a great surprise and blessing to us. And we are still benefiting from that today. As a matter of fact, we sometimes let families or people that need to borrow it, we'll go ahead on and drive them around, get someone in the community that's on the insurance and help others with that van as well.
That's so nice. I'm so glad that you were able to get that van. That's amazing. Another question we had was from Susan Jester. How do you prevent weeds in a safe way? I don't know if either one of you.
Well, cover crops is a great, that's what we use. Cover crops, just like Arielle and the people at Urban Harvest, that is the thing to use, because if you, like, they're using buckwheat, and you can use buckwheat, you can use rye and a few other things, but you can till it under. But now we're trying to do the no-till thing, but you can still use that cover crop and try and pick it up in lumps and turn it over with something large, and it really nourishes the soil.
Okay.
Yeah,
Arielle, anything?
I think no. That's very helpful. That's probably the number one sort of like soil-friendly option is cover cropping to crowd out weeds. Mulching is really important. So that's the only other thing I would add is a good layer of organic mulch. And if you can avoid dyed mulch,
Right.
that's even better. So straw is a popular one. Leaf mulch. You can mow if you're not putting herbicide on your grass, you can mow your grass and use grass clippings as mulch to just keep soil covered, and that will suppress some weeds. It's not 100%. You're always going to be pulling some weeds, but it will help suppress them.
Great. Thank you. And so now we're going to go into the herb planting tutorial. So we're going to turn it over. Arielle, you're going to help us with that. Yay.
Okay. Well, I'll start with basil. And I think the technique is actually going to be very similar for all the herbs because they're all smaller seeds and they like to be planted near the surface. So it's going to be very similar, but I will just kind of walk through what I did to fill the pots with the soil. I'm going to just adjust my screen here a little bit. So I took the pot. I will mention that you're going to want to put something underneath it because when you water it, this drainage hole, it will leak onto the surface. So put it in, if you've got these lovely ceramic bits, you can put it on that, yogurt lid, anything that plastic that you can just kind of catch that water. So you're not accidentally making a puddle. And then I just filled it up to probably about a 1/2 inch from the top. And now what I'm going to do even before I plant the seed is, this is very fluffy potting mix. So I'm actually going to suggest that you wet it a little bit, that you moisten it with some water before we put the seeds in. That'll help it sort of settle a little bit. I don't know if you can see, but when you add water, it kind of puffs up. I need to make sure I'm not dumping water on my desk here. But so I'm just kind of wetting it down so that it settles for me and it's a little damp. And then take my basil seeds, which are the little tiny ones. I'm going to sprinkle all of them in here. We don't know what the germination rate will be, but I would just plant all of them in the pot and then you'll see how many sprouts you get. And if need be, if you get really lucky and they all sprout, then you can what's called thin them. So you can pull out a few to give them a little bit more space. But basil seeds, like most tiny herb seeds, like to be close to the surface. They don't need to be buried very deeply. So what I did is I just kind of make a little indentation with my finger and sprinkle the basil seed in there. And then I kind of just lightly cover it from the edge, a thin layer on top, and a little bit more water. Get it nice and wet so it kind of sinks in. And then just keep an eye on it. Most seeds will germinate, what would you say, Reverend Hollis, about a week, maybe 10 days?
Yes, for sure.
Yeah, so you can kind of keep an eye on them. You don't necessarily need to water it every day. Just water it if it feels dry to the touch. So it kind of stays moist, but it's not really waterlogged or soggy.
Right.
And let's see. I see a pop-up coming. Do we need them in sun?
Yeah. I was just going to ask you that. Do they need to?
Eventually, yes. Once you get sprouts, you're going to want to put them in your sunniest window, which will be a south-facing window. If you don't have a south-facing window, then east or west gets the next longest sun exposure. And north-facing windows tend to get very little direct sun, so they might still sprout. They just won't grow very quickly if they're in a north window. So just think about where your sunniest spots are and put them there once you see your sprouts coming up. Seeds don't actually typically need sunlight to germinate, so they should sprout on their own. And then once you see those little babies popping up, you can put them in some sunlight.
Awesome.
Other questions? Oh, and I do have some information about basil, but maybe we'll just get all the planting done, and then we can talk a little bit about the uses of the herb and plant care as they get bigger.
And if we can plant them outdoors too, I saw another.
Okay.
Question. But we can answer that after the Reverend.
Gotcha.
Well, I believe I have parsley, but it's going to be the same process. Sometimes in the future, if you want to plant more parsley, you might want to soak the seed, overnight or something, because sometimes it's hard to, it doesn't germinate as quick as others. But 8 to 10 days indoors and well watered, not to be soggy, but well watered, it should sprout in 8 to 10 days. And just like Arielle said, after that, you put it in a sunny window. Now, if you wanted to move things outdoors, you want to wait till the soil temperature needs to be warmer than it has been lately. They typically, the almanac typically says when the ground is 70 degrees, and so with it being really cool, it wouldn't be a good time right now. But after you get it sprouted and let it get some roots and make sure the temperature is warm enough. And you do basically the same thing she just did, and you'll have parsley in your planter. Then you would again, you would thin it out. If you happen to get a lot of sprouts, just make sure you give them space to grow. And I guess I might as well just talk about parsley while I'm on here. Parsley, everyone probably knows what it looks like. I have a bunch of it downstairs where I was initially set up, but I forgot it. But you can look it up on the internet and see what it looks like. It's flat leaf and curly leaf. And everybody thinks about parsley, not everybody. Some people think about parsley only as a garnish, but parsley can be put in foods, soups, stews. It can be put in salads. And just eaten just take the leaves to have them if you like to do that, along with an egg roll like me. And so I.
Uh-oh. I think we lost. Oh, there we go. We lost you for a second, Reverend.
She muted by accident.
Yeah, there we go.
I must have bumped something around here. But the University of Missouri also, I was just looking up other things to see if I saw something that would make it a little bit more interesting. Parsley is good, along with a few other vegetables, celery and different ones, to fight cancer. And it's an article, if you go to University of Missouri website, I'm sure, and you put parsley in, it will probably come up. that it has a benefit to fighting off cancer, especially for older people, you know, postpartum, you know, the older folks like, well, me. I'm a senior, well seniored. So, and cancer runs in my family. So I tend to use parsley a lot. And if you use it in your soups and different things, you can use less salt. I think it's a wonderful plant, and not just for garnish, but it was originally, it came from Europe originally, but it is grown in Missouri, all over Missouri.
Huh. I didn't know that you can use it instead of salt. That is great.
Well, it does cut, if you use it in your soups and everything, you can use less salt. Yes.
Wow. And how many sprouts can grow in these small pots?
Well,
do you guys think?
It depends on the germination.
Mhm.
Yeah. So sometimes you get a great batch of seeds and they all sprout. But
Right.
then you might get some seed that just is not going to germinate, and you might get 2 or 3. So it just depends on the germination.
Mhm. When you're thinning them, like if you happen to have all 6 pop up,
Yeah.
I would maybe thin them to 2.
Yeah.
What do you think, Reverend? Like
I
2,
do.
maybe 3, if you can kind of spread them out to the edges, but they might get a little crowded if there's 3.
Or maybe 2 would be
Yeah.
ideal. Yeah.
And then they will eventually outgrow that pot though.
Yes.
So once they're maybe 4 to 6 inches, you might think about moving them into a larger pot or moving them outdoors if you have some space or a container outside. So the last seeds that were included were these oregano seeds, and they're very tiny, but it's the same process. Kind of make a little indentation in the soil. I would just sprinkle all of them, and you'll see how many you get. If you get, 10 sprouts, you just pick the strongest ones and let them keep going, and then thin out the other ones that maybe don't seem quite as healthy. And oregano is a great companion plant for pretty much any other vegetable you grow. Any summer veggie does well with oregano nearby. And I guess I should back up and just explain what a companion plant means. So companion planting, it goes by many names. It's a very ancient practice handed down from, indigenous growers and for many millennia. And it is the practice of putting different crops and different species in close proximity to each other because they will mutually benefit each other. So that might be, planting herbs next to your vegetables. Basil, for example, is often planted with tomato. It's even considered to improve the flavor of the tomatoes. It attracts the pollinators and the good bugs you want and repels the bugs you don't want. So herbs make really, really good companions to vegetables. And I guess the only caveat I would say about putting an herb in your vegetable garden is do a little bit of research beforehand, because some herbs will just keep spreading out and coming back every year, and they can kind of create a ground cover. So oregano, for example, makes a lovely ground cover. It's very hardy, and it will kind of take up more and more space year over year. It'll come back after the winter. So make sure you're giving it room, because otherwise it might crowd out the stuff around it. A lot of people put oregano in pots because it'll kind of flow over the edge of the pot, and it's a very attractive plant to put at the edge of a pot and kind of let it trail out. But it makes a great companion to vegetables. Basil makes a great companion plant to your tomatoes, peppers, eggplant, kind of the popular summer veggies. So you can put those right next to, like with, about 12 inches away, I would say, from your vegetable crops, and transplant them right into the same bed or same pot, and they'll grow well together.
Okay, great. Before we're going to ask some more questions, but Brooke in the office wanted to display her pot. And then maybe if people want to show what they've done so far, if people have started painting theirs. So Brooke, do you want to show yours? Where are you?
Yeah, I'm showing it. It's just, I might not be on your screen. This is the basil, and I use the paint pens to just write the word spring around it.
So cute.
Yeah, that's nice.
If you want to like hold your pots up to the screen, if anyone has started decorating, I'm looking. Oh, I see Alex's. Okay. Brooke, yours is fantastic. And I'm sure everyone's, I'm sure everyone will do a beautiful job. Oh, wait, hold on. I just saw Stacy Berger. Very cute.
Love that.
Very cute. Okay, so we did have a few more questions that I wanted to get to that are in the chat still. From Diana Fine, she asked Reverend Hollis, which schools did you start gardens at? And how do you get, I'm going to ask another part to that question. How do you get the children engaged in the process of planting and eating healthy foods?
So the school, the only school that we're at now, we have gone into classrooms and did little growing projects with students, but we are now have been at Riverview Gardens High School for quite some time. And usually the students will participate, well, if we can partner with a teacher. And that's what we will do. We've had several teachers at Riverview Gardens High School partner with us and bringing children out to, teens out to the garden to learn about food, help plant and harvest. Harvesting is the problem. Usually school is out. You can get some spring, we can get salads, which we get lots of salads, spring greens into the school. But after, when they're out of school, they're, you know, it's nothing to, they usually bust. Most of the kids that go to Riverview Gardens are bust. And so we lose contact unless some parents, those that live close by, will continue to come. But that is our main school that we have worked at and continue to work at.
Aren't you partnering with Sabrina Davis for another project?
Yes, she's over at the old Stevens School, and there's a lot right next to the school. So we're designing a garden there for the community and of course for children in the community. And it's just, we're really looking forward to it. I know it's going to be a great area for community together and people to grow food. We hope to have so many beds in that space that families can learn to grow and pretty much, you know, save money, but also eat a lot of nutritious food.
Lisa,
that's wonderful. Yeah, go ahead.
Reverend Hollis, can you tell us a little bit about the market that you are putting into the Stevens School where Sabrina's project is?
Yes, we've moved most of everything in there, and we just have to make sure that our health license and all of that is approved. That's a process we have to go through with the city of St. Louis, but it's pretty much there. And as soon as we get the health department's approval, we'll have not only fresh vegetables that would, you know, organically and locally grown vegetables there, and we will also have family farmers, small family farmers, meat products, eggs and things like that, fruits and vegetables that we'll have there. And we're making it, it's nonprofit, so we don't really mark it up. We're just wanting to make sure people have the access that's needed.
Sounds wonderful. Thank you.
On a side note, there was a question about cilantro. Is it an easy herb to grow? And then I'll continue the questions about the organizations.
Arielle, would you like to take that one? I'm going to drink some water.
In my experience, cilantro is pretty robust. It'll come back year after year. Plants will get nice and big. So yeah, cilantro is another good companion plant for summer vegetables. And I've always had good luck with it. It's also, you can collect so many seeds from it. That's why it keeps coming back year after year, because it just creates and drops a lot of seeds. So it's a really nice herb to share seeds with, because you'll just, once you start collecting them, you'll just have like a big old bag full of cilantro seeds. But I think that's a great herb to start with. Yeah.
Thank you. There was a question from Lindsay Ball-Cantor. Tell us about volunteering with your organization. To either one.
Reverend
I
Hollis,
don't know if Reverend Hollis.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the question.
Do you want volunteers for your organization, and how would people do that if you would like volunteers?
If I'm not mistaken, there should be a way if you go to our website, but people can always call me or email me, and we'll have a younger person that schedules volunteers and talk to them about different roles they could do as a volunteer and see what their interests are, and we'd be happy to have them. And everything from gardening to working in the market to helping with nutrition and cooking. And I won't forget farm camps. I hope we'll be able to do one before it gets too cold, this year.
That would be great. And Arielle?
Similarly for Urban Harvest, on our website, we have a tab that has different ways to visit the farm, and then that's a drop-down menu that'll take you to socially distant volunteering opportunities. Volunteering opportunities focus on the farms for us personally. So if you want to sign up to volunteer, you'll be out on the farms planting or weeding or harvesting, laying mulch, planting cover crops, some of the stuff we've been talking about. And if you're interested in other roles, though, we do have other opportunities to work with us in other capacities. Like we take interns to work on media and communications or on education. So we do offer an internship as well that is not limited to any particular age group. We have a free internship in the summer. So all that information is on our website as well.
Okay, and we'll hopefully, when we finish, we'll send emails and have both organizations' information, right, Brooke? Bonnie Solomon asked, what happens to food distribution in winter and non-gardening weather?
There are some places in St. Louis that have hoop houses. Some of the urban farms have hoop houses, and you can still earth dance. You can, and I'm sure at Urban Harvest, don't you have that?
We have a few. We have a greenhouse and a hoop house, so we do have to significantly kind of scale back, but we are able to extend the farming season that way. Yeah.
And then, but it may not all be local, but we do have access to vegetables.
Thank you. And then Felice Joyce asked, there are various urban gardening organizations in the community. Is there a coordinated effort to reach as many communities as possible?
I think it depends on the vision of the people that are gardening. If they are wanting to give free food, a lot of people some people do CSAs, like New Roots Urban Farm. You can actually pay into that farm, and then you can you'll reap or have a box from that farm weekly during growing and harvesting season. So it depends upon the farm. Now we will have make sure people that don't normally have access will get our food. We try to make sure we take it to the right neighborhoods, which are considered food deserts, and share that food with them.
And Arielle, did you have anything? Or?
Yeah, no, I think that's a really excellent point. Not all urban farms are using the same kind of model to sustain themselves. So some may be at the farmer's market, and that's how you can support them, or you can purchase a share of the food of their harvest boxes, their CSAs, and then others are nonprofit and free food distribution for those who need it. So we're not all sort of doing the same thing. In terms of if there's a central coordinated effort, there are some platforms where different organizations come together to talk and collaborate. So there is a food policy coalition that the Missouri Coalition for the Environment convenes. And that's kind of an umbrella where once a month, different organizations come together and talk to each other. So we do have a food policy coalition. There's a new effort out of WashU called BRIC, B-R-I-C. And that's also convening community groups and universities to try to get conversation happening and help with funding and maybe build something, from all of these various smaller entities. But I would say that's still pretty new. There's not any kind of, unified project that everybody's working on just yet.
Okay, well, hopefully in the future, that would be great.
Yes.
So thank you, Reverend Audrey Hollis and Arielle Wright, United People, Urban Harvest, and donors, STL Compost, Rolling Ridge Nursery, Double Star Farms. And I just have some closing information, but stay on because we're going to do a raffle. I forgot to mention that at the beginning of this for a $25 gift certificate to Rolling Ridge Nursery. So there's a couple events that are coming up. We have our coffee talk May 25th with our special guest, Kalia Collier. She's the owner of the St. Louis Surge, the professional women's basketball team here in St. Louis. And she is also the vice president of community relations with the St. Louis City Soccer Club. And we have NCJWSTL's virtual poker night. It's presented by the men of NCJW on June 24th to raise money for the back to school store, which gets 2,000 kids ready for school each year. Don't miss your chance to be part of it. So you can go on to NCJWSTL.org for details of all our events and updates for NCJW. And we're going to put a poll up really quickly. It'll take less than a minute. We appreciate your feedback, and then we'll get right to drawing the winner of the raffle. And they're going to signal me when I can pull the name of the winner. I don't know if Brooke or Jessa wants to tell me.
We're very close.
Okay.
Your feedback helps us get better.
Yeah.
Thank you, everybody, for submitting your feedback.
And I'm going to say thank you again to Joyce Coker, too.
My pleasure.
Waiting.
It's been a great program. Lisa, you did a great job. And staff, we couldn't have done it without you.
All right, Lisa, I think it's time.
Okay. All right. This is a $25 gift card to the Rolling Ridge Nursery. And the winner is Judy Kramer.
Yay.
Okay. I hope everyone enjoyed this. I hope you have a great evening. Thank you so much for being on here. We appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you. Have a good night. Have a great weekend.
Thank you.
Thank you, Reverend and Arielle.
Thanks. This was wonderful.
Oh,
Thank you, Reverend. Thank you, Arielle.
thank you all.
Arielle, thank you so much. We hopefully will see you again soon.